Picture this. 3 library staff members trapped inside the South Charleston Public Library. Aaron, Tobey, and Josh, each with divergent tastes, tasked with watching each other's films. Can they survive with their sanity intact? Find out on Real Opposites, a library podcast about movies.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Real Opposites. I'm Aaron.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Tobey.
And we are finally back after a hiatus to, talk.
Yeah, we're here to talk about movies. We have special guest Todd today.
Oh, yeah!
Snap it to a Slim Jim.
No woo? I feel like this is the podcast for a woo.
That's true. So we were on a hiatus. In case you're listening and didn't know, our roof got blown off when the tornadoes hit on April 2nd.
Yeah.
And it took us 3 months to get everything repaired, get back open and running normal enough.
Mm-hmm.
And now we are finally back in the recording studio known as now Josh's office.
Yep.
And yeah, I'm excited to be back for sure.
Me too. I missed this.
Yeah. So hopefully it's a fun episode. We're going to talk about, what was it? The Wrestler?
The Wrestler and Iron Claw.
Iron Claw.
So,
I think we're going to go Wrestler first.
yeah, we'll go with that. That came out first.
Okay.
And I think at one point in our lives, we've all been wrestling fans.
Wrestling
true.
fan. That's true. When we said this was going to be a wrestling podcast, I thought we were in for some fun movies.
Well, we were going to be, but we cut my movies out.
But
So we will eventually have another wrestling movie podcast. Don't worry, because we did not watch Fighting with my family and
Okay. Ready to Rumble.
Ready to Rumble.
this was a horrible,
Those are the fun
sad,
ones.
no fun time.
Todd, you were a fan of like the 80s.
80s,
Yeah.
80s,
Era.
early 90s wrestling.
Yeah, that's
you.
my same era.
Yeah,
Like,
and then I came in the 90s Attitude Era was my era. So
yeah, you're more like The Rock and
Hardy Boys, Stone
all
Cold,
those, and I think
Kane,
me and Todd are
Undertaker.
like Hogan, Macho Man,
Ultimate
Ric Flair, Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah. But of course, I
Like-
grew up in the no, I didn't.
No, you
They
didn't.
didn't.
The end of the 80s. But I grew up with those still being big wrestlers at one
Yeah,
point.
like Hogan and Macho Man were still around.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
And
Well into the late 90s.
yeah. Here we go. We're going to talk about the
there we
movie.
go.
Hey,
I
we're
was getting ready to segue too.
So in the first movie that we're talking about, The Wrestler,
Wrestler.
which is from 2008,
Yeah.
I think first of all, this movie was a movie that I have wanted to see since it came out.
Oh,
It's
so
one
you
of
had
those-
never seen it?
I had never seen it.
Oh my God.
Wow.
So it was a new movie.
Yeah.
And I've said it on here before. Once a movie is new and I want to see it, it's still, hey, I want to see that new movie, The Wrestler. So I finally saw that new movie, The Wrestler, from 2008 this weekend. But I do think I think I'm yelling.
You're
so
fine.
You're fine.
Sorry
man.
about that.
You're fine.
But I do think that it touches on that heavily.
Oh yeah.
The putting your body on the line
Sure, sure.
and really showing definitely shows like the effects of wrestling.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, how these like the more local wrestling events they have, like
Mm.
they go hard.
right.
Like they don't, because they're trying to get the attention of the
Yeah.
WW. What is it now?
WWE
Is it WWE? Sorry.
Yeah.
instead of WWE.
I did remember
Yeah.
WWF and WCW. I remember it was a big
Yeah.
deal when like WCW became a thing.
Right.
Mhm.
But anyway, so I mean they're stapling stuff to their heads and like
Mhm.
I watched a document, like a 30 for 30 documentary on Ric Flair. It's on
I've seen
Netflix
that.
that popped up, and in one of the matches they're doing like where they have like tacks
Mhm.
on the mat, and they're just like they just end up with like dozens of tacks on
Oh,
their
yeah.
back, and they so that reminded me of the wrestler.
Yeah.
Recently in WrestleMania, Dusty Rhodes' son took a belt buckle to the back from The Rock.
Mm.
And it,
busted
like-
him open.
Yeah, it busted him open for so he was wrestling in the final with like an open wound on
Jesus.
his back.
I don't think it was
Um,
meant to happen.
No,
I don't
no.
think they knew it was going to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
It was like the buckle caught him.
Mm.
yeah,
He hit him with
That's
his tiger
Cody
belt.
Rhodes.
Cody Rhodes, yeah.
Because I'm going to talk about his brother later on the other movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, as a movie, I'm just going to give my opinion, and then
Yeah.
y'all can take away. But I loved this movie.
Oh,
I'm so glad I finally saw it. I threw it on. You know me. I usually throw it on while I'm doing something else. I was going out of town for the weekend, so I threw it on Thursday night while I was like folding clothes and packing.
Mm-hmm.
I end up pushing the clothes over and like sitting down, and I watched the whole
Wow.
entire movie.
Wow,
like this.
that's high praise.
Yeah.
That's
Like
high
I
praise.
was glued to that screen.
It's
It was so good.
It's
great
impossible to look away.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like it,
that's exactly what it was.
it's one of these like it puts you almost like you're a fly on the wall.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Just watching it, and it's like fascinating to observe his life,
Mhm.
his daily routines, everything that this poor guy living in a trailer is trying to do just to like dyeing
Live.
his hair and
Mhm.
right.
doing all these things. It's just like I could watch it anytime. It's consistently fascinating.
For me, it has that car wreck like quality. Like it's
Yeah.
so engrossing, and so much is just constantly going wrong and falling apart for him that it like
Yeah.
you just can't look away. Because you're like, because you feel it when he's out, and he's gonna miss that dinner like with
Mhm.
his daughter, and you're just like, no, like you just know, like you can feel it coming down the track, and
Yeah.
it's
And you know he's going to die.
he's gonna die because
Yeah.
he's not gonna stop doing what he's doing
Right.
to like
'Cause it's
you
his
know.
livelihood,
Mhm.
and it's everything he's
Man,
done
I
for his
I
entire
get goosebumps
life.
just thinking about that ending.
Yeah,
Oh,
Jumping off the top rope.
and it's
Yeah.
I like that it was open ended.
yeah,
Yeah, you don't
so, like-
know for sure that he did.
I mean,
die,
it's-
but
I like to think he did.
oh yeah, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure he did.
He's dead.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
I like to think he died with that last move, but
Yeah.
it was such a.
Was that a frog splash or?
No, he did. He did. It was kind of
It-
like a mix of a
It's-
forearm.
it's like a flying
I
headbutt.
remember him
yeah.
going like this a lot.
Yeah, he
like
slapped
before
his
he
forearms.
jumps. Yeah.
And when he lands, he kind of lands with his forearm on their chest, and I think he also headbutts
them. Yeah, it's like the
which is a
ram.
unique move that I don't
Yeah.
remember anybody doing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was interesting.
It has to do with his name being the ram.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
the
And
it's
a lot of
flying headbutt.
a lot of this came from Mickey Rourke too. He was a boxer for a long
Mhm.
time, which is why he looks so different from when he was like one of the biggest stars in the world in the late '80s and the '80s, just in general. It's because he had to have a lot of plastic surgery. Now he's just way off the deep end on the plastic surgery, but
Yeah.
a lot of his experience as a boxer came into this. Like his intro music was "Sweet Child of Mine." That's what the Rams, intro music is. And,
Yeah.
so it's kind of
And was
There-
given for free by Axl Rose.
yeah. I mean, there's this like I think that's what gives the movie an authenticity. Like it almost feels like a documentary sometimes. Like
Yeah,
it,
I
I
think-
mean, it doesn't feel staged.
Right.
You
And
know?
I think that's why it grabbed my attention so hard because I
Yeah.
do love stuff like that. And I find the wrestling industry so interesting anyways.
Mhm.
And then documentaries are my kind of thing. And I think that's why I couldn't look away because I Googled, is it based on a wrestler? It was based on a couple different wrestlers,
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
stories that they've, a lot of the 80s wrestlers I read about it and it mentioned a couple of them that I
Yeah.
can't remember right now, but they pulled stories from wrestlers,
Yeah.
and then pulled from his boxing and things like that. And it just felt real.
I mean, it's kind of just like an amalgam of all these experiences that these people,
Right.
downtrodden wrestlers trying to just make ends meet.
And he was like perfectly cast. Like he was
He's
Oh,
great
yeah.
in it.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else could have played that as believable.
There's no way.
I
I mean,
don't-
there was talk like Darren Aronofsky, the director, was thinking about Nick Cage, which would have been a very different movie. But
Yeah.
Very different movie.
I mean, Mickey Rourke is just. I mean, sadly, he kind of squandered the goodwill this gave him.
Mhm.
But this is like one of the all-time performances for me.
Yeah.
I put it in my top 10 of all time. He's just incredible, and he was such a good actor, when he was younger. And it was just to see. It's like one. I mean, it's a bit like him, like Ram at the end, where he's just one last jump off the top rope.
Yeah.
And then that's it. But but it's like it was really great to see Mickey Rourke like just kill it.
I really like the relationship with his daughter,
Mm-hmm.
and that struggle because I've listened. I haven't watched wrestling in years, but I listen to wrestling podcasts from time to time, and they tell stories about the road and missing kids' birthdays
Yeah.
and stuff, and it's just very common because they're just
Right.
always out on the road. So I thought that was a really accurate portrayal of
Yeah.
what a wrestler's family life might be like.
Yeah, that was a big part of that Ric Flair documentary was just how much of his kids' lives he
Yeah.
missed. Like,
Yeah.
just months.
Yeah, and
They're on the road for probably 300 days a year.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
the story behind these wrestlers and the stories they have from the road, super interesting. If you pick up just about any wrestling book and read it, or their biographies, there's a lot of good stories in there, and it's
Yeah.
because a lot of them come from nothing, and are making their way up on no money.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of interesting things they have to do.
I mean,
to
arguably,
get by.
it's more fascinating than wrestling itself.
Yeah.
Like
It
just
is.
Oh
the
yeah,
story of how they get into it,
Mhm.
what the
Yeah.
road stories.
There's that show Dark Side of the Ring.
Oh, I've heard of that. Yeah,
It's really good, and it
I've been meaning to watch that and I still haven't.
it's on Hulu. But yeah, they go through different things that happen throughout wrestling history. Obviously, they do like Chris Benoit. They do the Von Erich family.
Mhm.
Owen Hart, I'm sure.
Owen Hart. Yeah, it's really interesting.
I'll have
Yeah.
to check it out.
They have an Andre the Giant episode.
I don't think they did.
Man, I've watched that Andre
I mean,
Andre
he has, like, a
documentary. It's
documentary.
HBO
Right.
documentary.
Oh,
I've watched that
yeah.
probably like 3 times. I
Yeah.
love that
It's so
thing.
good.
It's crazy. Like, I think any athlete like kind of has that like drive to do things that like eventually destroy their body, right?
Oh,
because
yeah.
like hanging on to being like the number one in the world is rough. But I feel like it's extra bad with wrestling because it's like there's this persona. There's like a lot of, I think they talk about it a lot in Iron Claw, like this, like, well, like the only time you're really successful is if you're in the big show, right?
Yeah,
and
right.
like everything is working to that, and everything else is gig work and rough on the body and rough
Yeah.
on the mind.
And I think that's what is interesting about The Wrestler and how it does feel like a documentary. And I mean, reading books and listening to podcasts and stuff and the stuff I do know about the wrestling industry, it's just neat to see. And from what I remember, I think this movie did okay.
Yeah, I mean it did all right.
Yeah.
For like kind of basically an independent film.
Right.
But I mean it was a big. It kind of got. I mean it was an awards contender. Like they were
Mhm.
really hoping. And
Yeah.
Mickey Rourke.
Got robbed.
Yes,
Got
I don't
robbed.
remember who won that year,
Had to
but
be
there
Rory.
was
Wow.
no one
Right.
was even close to the level that Mickey Rourke like just put his body through. Because I mean,
Right, exactly.
even though it's a film, like the moves and stuff that they're doing, and
Right. And that
it's
They still hurt.
it
and
still
that-
hurt.
right.
Yeah, and I
that's
mean,
where I was going with it is, wrestlers are definitely athletes. You have to be athletic.
oh yeah, yeah,
And they do get the butt of a lot of jokes because it's scripted and they know the outcome, but it was neat that the wrestler really pulled in your attention to everything they go through though.
Mhm.
Just to make that fake wrestling show to watch,
yeah,
that's a lot. That's what I used
Yeah.
to say because when I was really young, I was somebody that made fun of wrestling.
Mhm.
And then as I got a little bit older, like middle school, that's when I started watching it. And people still would be like trying to make fun of you about it and
Yeah.
be like, it's fake. And I always was like, yeah, but like you can't fake Jeff Hardy jumping off of a 20-foot ladder
No,
in
like-
through a table.
No, I mean,
Like you can't fake
They're
that.
still athletes. It's
Yeah.
just, yeah.
There's
one
aspects
It's
of it that's
scripted, not
it's
fake.
scripted.
It's like
Yeah.
theater, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
one of the sequences I like the most is I think it's early on, when he has like the first match in the movie.
Hmm.
Or it's somewhere in the movie. Honestly, I didn't rewatch it. I've seen it so many times,
Yeah.
but I didn't have time. But where they're cutting back and forth between, it might be the one where like he's getting stapled, and it's with the guy with the
Mhm.
big beard, and they're like stapling, and there's tacks, and there's the ladder and barbed wire, I think.
Yeah. That
And-
was a
but-
rough scene to
And they
watch.
cut back and forth between like him in the locker room, like getting the staples
That's when he has
removed.
his heart attack.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and but cutting back and forth between the match and it's it really hit home like how much they put their bodies
Right.
through.
And
And to be a wrestler, like you have to be like a gymnast, you have to be like a strongman,
Mhm.
you got to be able to sell
little
it,
bit of an
and
actor, yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, it requires a lot, and I mean, it is fake. I mean, it's fake in the sense that it's scripted, but
right.
aside from that, like you really, they sacrifice a lot,
Yeah.
especially at this level.
Mhm.
Right.
You know, like
Yeah, I don't know any other sport that you could say that other than maybe football.
Mhm.
yeah, no, yeah. I mean, as far as like danger goes,
Yeah, but they still have at
They're
least they have
padded.
padded
Yeah.
and helmets.
these guys are out there in like speedos.
right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Getting their heads
Literally
slammed
nothing.
into the concrete.
Yeah.
There's
I keep getting like reels on my Facebook of people getting like
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I know. I get
It's
them
like,
too.
oh god.
he had a he
Fun
lost his
wrestling rings.
Oscar to Sean Penn for Milk,
Okay. That makes
Gross.
sense.
which was I think just an attempt to be like Sean Penn probably deserves an Oscar at this point.
Yeah,
And I
I
always
mean-
hate it when they do that, and they do it for a movie that doesn't really.
Yeah.
Milk is fine, but like it doesn't really deserve that.
No, I mean they do that all the time. Like they gave Pacino the Oscar for Son of a Woman instead of like, you know, The Godfather or Serpico or
Right.
No.
you know, tons of other movies. I don't know why they do that. It's a pain because man, Mickey.
That was a good
Yeah,
year.
he did it, and that scene you were talking about, which is right before he has his heart attack.
Yeah.
Also the way it was shot, the way they were going back and forth between in the locker room afterwards, removing and stitching him up, and what had happened earlier in the match. Like
Yeah.
it was just, it made it seem so real, and it was also kind of hard to watch.
Yeah, I mean, and it looks real too. Whatever the
It does.
the makeup, like it just looks like they're removing.
Yeah.
Well, he
they did
actually
good.
bladed himself a couple of times in
Yeah.
the movie
Right.
to
I don't
like
doubt
add,
it.
like in a real way to like add color.
Yeah, I figure.
Yeah.
Um,
Which they do. Like they cut and actually injured themselves to
Oh, yeah.
like, make it sell it.
When I did Backyard, we did it in front of no one.
Mm-hmm.
And there were just like 3 of us that mainly did it. And it was just for our entertainment.
did you have like a ring?
We used a trampoline.
That
Was
seems
the
safe.
ring.
Is
And
there like
at
one of the safety nets around it?
No. And at one time, that trampoline was actually where a pool used to be.
Oh,
And so there was a
Smart.
deck above the pool, above the trampoline. So that was like our top ropes. We would jump off of a deck, and that was So, but we also we'd smash like the big iridescent light bulbs over each other. We had doors we threw people through, tables. It was all for our fun. But one of my people that I wrestled with at the
Boys
time,
are
he
fascinating
actually
creatures.
became.
you need to get paid for this. You're gonna do it.
He actually was also, and I think still does, local wrestling, and there for a while he was one of the big names around here as far as just really putting his body on the line and doing it. But he even cut then, and it was just for us.
Yeah.
I don't think they
Right.
cut in the WWE anymore.
I don't.
I've seen
I
blood,
know they
but
went
I
through a
think
stint where
every
they
time-
did not,
Yeah.
I know they do in AEW because I've seen it.
for sure.
I've seen blood in the WWE, but every time I've seen it lately, it's been
real.
It's been someone accidentally got their nose
Yeah.
busted, or like
Yeah, WWE
stuff.
started putting implementing some things that to try to make it as safe as possible.
Are you, are
But
you guys familiar with the wrestler Abdullah the Butcher?
mhm,
He's an older wrestler,
yeah.
but he cut himself so many times. Like his head is just marked up with
Oh yeah.
with razors. I mean, just really bad.
Oh, okay. I know him. Yeah, I
That's
remember him.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of them, where they have cut so much, even as early as the 90s, and I think maybe Triple H is one of the ones that has this issue, but like his skin is so cut up and thin that it doesn't take much for them to bleed.
Yeah.
So they bleed really easy from their forehead now.
Wow.
Tricks of the trade.
Yeah.
trade.
Well, like-
Fun stuff.
Despite the movie feeling like a kind of like a documentary, it does like Aronofsky. If you've ever seen like Requiem for a Dream or Black Swan,
Yep.
I'm looking at Aaron. I know he has. I know why.
Listen,
I'm
He
asking.
hasn't.
The
I've
dream
seen-
part. What did
Requiem for a
have we not
Dream.
watched that?
No.
Yeah.
I
not
feel
watched
like
that.
I might have been in a room where that was on at one time.
We discussed Requiem for a Dream when we were trying
Maybe.
to get you to watch Perfect Blue.
Oh yeah.
because he steals some shots from Perfect. Not steals. He paid for the rights to Perfect Blue so he could use
Oh,
shots
okay.
from it.
Then I guess I haven't seen it.
Okay.
No.
Well, he like a lot of his movies typically like they're almost like a downward spiral, but they're kind of musical in a way.
Yeah.
Like just the way, I mean, it's like a symphony movement, like each section of the movie, until you kind of end up like you know where it's going.
Yeah.
But the journey there is very
Yes.
like you feel like you go on it with the characters.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and I think that was beautifully done in this movie. You felt their feelings. You really did. And even with what was her name? The love interest.
Marissa Tomei.
Marissa Tomei, yeah.
Yeah. I thought she did great too. And it's a
Oh,
great
yeah.
parallel to what Mickey Rourke's going through, because she's going through her own version of it in a way, where she is older. She's a stripper, and she's older, so she's losing clients, and you see her not making as much money as the other girls and things like that,
Yeah.
which is where Rourke, the
Ram.
Ram, meets her. But I thought that was I just thought that here you go, that little love story was very important to that story.
It was.
Yeah. No, I mean they're
And seeing that parallel, and also just that people go through it in a lot of industries.
yeah.
As you get older, you just aren't as good.
Well, I mean, especially if it's an industry where there's a lot of physicality required.
Right.
You know, it's
Yeah.
it gets harder as you get older.
But I do think, and with his relationship with her, his relationship with the daughter, his relationship with the other wrestlers, the older wrestlers that he's going to these signing
Yeah.
events and stuff with.
Oh,
It's just you really feel it.
that wrestling convention scene where they're just in like a
And it
like
kinda
a-
pans
like
to
a,
each
like
one.
a church gymnasium or
Yeah.
something, and there's like nobody
And
there. It's like sometimes they go to cons and it's
the
just
saddest thing.
You
yeah, where it's just
see
like
it.
oh nobody's going to his table.
Yeah.
You'll
Well,
see
that's
voice actors, and they'll have people come to their panel, but they'll
Yeah.
sit at a table the whole convention, and no
Right.
one ever comes to talk to
Yeah.
them because they don't recognize them outside of their
Yeah.
They don't recognize them on their face.
There used to be a meme. It was called like Lonely Virgil. I don't know if Aaron's seen it before. But he was
I don't know.
he was the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase's like kind of manager, sidekick kind of guy. And there's these memes of him at conventions just sitting by
Oh.
himself.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's called-
I'm sure.
It's called Lonely Virgil, and there's just
I'll have
tons
to look
of
it
them.
up.
Oh.
Yeah, and that actually, that scene kind of really made me think, because I know recently I saw an ad for, I think it was here in West Virginia, and there's like some WWE legend going to be there, and it's like $15 to get in,
Yeah,
and I'm like,
it's the one. Is that the one
it
with
really brings, and they do that a lot around here actually.
with the guy that played Bud Bundy? Is going to be there.
I'm not sure
I
which
think
one
it's
it
like
was
next
I
month.
saw.
Like he's going to be like a host.
Oh.
Yeah, but they do
David
it a lot
Bus-
around
Bus-
here.
Bustino?
You know?
Yeah,
But you just know, like, this person was somebody at one time for
Yeah.
sure,
They're
because
just trying
they're
to pick-
names that you know.
Yeah.
And then seeing that scene, and it's like, that's what they're doing. Like, oh,
And that's
It's
hard. I mean,
heartbreaking a
when
little
you're
bit.
not
Yeah.
the top of the game anymore in a career, like we were saying, a career that requires you to
Yeah.
be either physically attractive or physically capable.
Right.
Like, what do you do with the rest of your life when you made your life this thing? Unless you're good enough on the mic to pivot to management, or
Right.
like if you were a physical guy, then what
Yeah.
can you do?
And a lot of wrestlers die young.
oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
It seems like every other month there's a wrestler that dies.
Well, I mean, there's
yeah.
Yeah.
lots of. I mean, I think in both movies we see there's lots of juice involved, and that is not good for your.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
health.
No, I mean it's the same thing as like bodybuilders. Like they keep taking
Right.
growth hormone, testosterone, and tren and everything, and they're dying in their
And
50s.
then this also touched on stuff that was really big as
Yeah.
far as like drugs for people.
Yeah, I mean,
because
like,
they
he
do it
goes
to
up
get
to the-
away from their pain.
Yeah, he goes to that one guy. He's like, I got this, I got that, I got that. I mean,
Right.
it's just like
Yeah.
he's like a pharmacy in his
Yeah.
bag, and
Yeah.
I mean that's what it's like.
Yeah.
Long-term injuries.
Yeah.
Speaking of growth hormone, I imagine. Zac Efron is. I don't think he's doing his body any favors at this point. In time.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean,
he's got that
he
trunk that looks like his intestines are enlarged.
Yeah, I mean, he's
Different movie.
it's
It is
different.
a different movie.
Well, we'll talk about
We're gonna
that.
talk about it.
We'll
We're
talk
gonna
about
talk
Zac
about it.
Efron's sweaty, oily physique in the next.
His He-Man hair.
His
He-Man hair.
Yeah.
He does have He-Man
Well,
hair.
but to be fair, I mean, I think they were just trying to mimic.
I mean,
what they
that
look
was just their
like.
hairstyle.
Yeah, that's what.
In
But
the
anyway.
next part of the
That's what
podcast.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I think that might be it for the wrestler.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, overall, so everybody likes the movie?
Yeah.
Oh, I
love
adore
it.
the movie.
Yeah,
Okay.
the
10 out of
Wrestler's great.
10.
Wrestler.
Now, was this also your first time seeing
no.
it?
I'd seen it years ago, but
So it
I've
was just
seen-
new to me still
Yeah,
from
but-
2008.
The Wrestler for me, it is one of those that I did not really want to watch again because it's so sad. So I guess I'm glad I was forced to because it is a good one.
I like sad, depressing
I
movies.
do like sad movies, but I do not like.
Yeah, I
I don't
see.
know, like that. Like Precious is one too. Like I just don't.
I was just annoyed by Precious.
I just don't want to like watch someone's life implode.
Yeah,
I
get that.
It's not my favorite
Yeah,
genre.
I feel like I guess sometimes I like art to mimic real life and, well.
Life can be a horror movie sometimes.
It
Yeah.
does. I mean, it's good, and I said, I think it's a wonderful movie. It's just like not what I want to spend 2 hours of my downtime necessarily
Right.
watching repeatedly a couple times a year or something.
Yeah.
Like just once a decade or so is fine.
So,
right.
jury says the wrestler, we give it thumbs up for sure.
8 thumbs up.
8 thumbs up.
I was gonna say that, but I'm a little tired and couldn't.
Add it up.
Couldn't
Let's say
count.
4 people. How many thumbs?
On that note,
We're gonna move on to
yeah.
Iron Claw.
The
So
rest-
Iron Claw.
yeah,
Yeah,
Iron
so
Claw.
Iron Claw.
So
like-
Iron Claw.
Is it Iron Claw?
It's Iron Claw.
Iron
Oh,
Claw.
okay.
It's Iron-
It's the Iron Claw.
It's not Iron Claws.
the Iron. It's the Iron.
Iron
Claw.
Claw.
I'm just
Iron
messing
Claw.
with
Oh, I was like,
The Iron Claw.
So I think Aaron, me, and Todd had seen it.
Mhm.
I don't think you had.
Yeah, this was brand new.
It
yeah,
came
I
out
saw
last
it in
year.
theaters.
I
Yeah, I
also
saw it in theaters,
didn't
too.
know about the Von Erichs.
I didn't know about them at all either
Um,
before the movie.
I did.
And my
Yeah.
husband did, and was like, as soon as he was like, as soon as he was giving the intro, like, people say my family's cursed. I don't think I believe it. Joe's like, he should believe it. They are cursed. They are in fact cursed, and everything is about to go horribly wrong.
Yeah. So the whole movie was a surprise
Yeah.
for me. I didn't know anything about them.
I knew some of it, but I didn't know all of it and the depths of it.
Yeah.
But for those that haven't seen it, Iron Claw was a movie that was released last year, 2023. And it is basically a true story for the most part
There were 6
about
brothers and
the
sisters,
Von Erichs.
Yeah.
There were 1 or 2 boys that weren't in it,
there were 6 brothers.
but they combined them.
They combined Chris, which was the youngest one, and Mike, which
Yeah.
is the youngest in the movie.
I just think
Um,
for the economy of the film, it
also,
it makes sense to combine characters.
2 of the brothers
Yeah.
died the same way.
Yeah.
So I feel like it would have really lessened Carrie's death if
Mhm.
they had used, because Chris also shoots himself with one
Yeah.
of his father's guns. So, and also interestingly, the youngest one, Chris, in real life was born with brittle bone disease and continued to try to be a wrestler.
Oh, geez.
So yeah, I think
like,
I think it's not a curse. It's more environmental factors.
Oh,
it
Yeah.
really is, yeah.
And I think it's the father. And,
I mean, yeah,
and the mother in some regard
I
too.
think so. Kev in real life, kind of said that he felt like his father came off pretty rank in this, but I think that could just be denial.
Yeah.
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 Because I mean, that's was how many of them commit suicide? All but the one that
3
died of
commit
the-
suicide. One dies of in
And-
real life. 3
and-
commit suicide.
Yeah. Okay.
One died of the internal stuff that may have been a drug overdose.
Yeah.
One died. The little one was electrocuted in a puddle as a little kid,
Yeah.
and Kev's the only one that's still alive.
So if 3 of your kids are committing suicide because they can't live up to the expectations you've set for them,
Right.
I think it's the dad.
Yeah.
It's
I think
definitely the dad.
I think it's this toxic masculine identity that he's trying to force on his kids. That is, I mean, it's harder to watch this than the wrestler.
There was
me.
that
Oh, yeah.
really
Yeah,
sad
this was
scene
sad.
with Mike, and they're all sitting at the dinner table,
Mhm.
and he's wanting to go play at the college,
Yeah,
and his mom said no,
yeah,
and his dad was just like, "It's done. Drop it. It's not
Yeah.
happening."
Yeah.
And like he's, this is what he's interested in is a music career, and they just squash it.
yeah,
Or we all know Carrie's my favorite, then Kev,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
and apparently that's real. Apparently Fitz really did rank his children and
Oh,
say
yeah.
it to
I
their
think that kind of
face.
says everything.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like Carrie's the most successful because he's going to be an Olympian.
And I think the difference between The Wrestler and this movie, and the reason it makes this one a little more hard to watch, is one, it is a true story. Two, it's you do see somewhat of the industry of wrestling, but
Yeah.
it's really not about that.
It's about
No,
It's more
no,
about the
it's-
family dynamic, and
Yeah.
that is what's sad about it. They also deal with the industry as far as supplements and drugs
Yeah.
and abuse to the body, but I think it's more of a movie about the mental capacity of
Yeah.
a family and what the family pressure does to people regardless of industry.
I think especially boys. Like
Yeah.
in like a way that like it's this he has this whole moment at the end where he's with his sons, and it's like almost like this moment where the generational trauma is broken, where he's crying, and it's like he's like, you shouldn't see me like this, men don't cry. And
Right.
his sons are like, everybody cries, we cry all
Yeah.
the time. And it's like this idea
That's when
that
he's sitting
like
with his boys.
yes, that one was hard.
That was a sweet
Um,
scene.
And
Yeah.
let's just circle back to the thing that I've said many times. Zac Efron is a good actor.
He is a good actor.
He's very good.
I do
He
think
is. I think he gets, and I've said this a million
Yeah.
times. He gets overlooked because of how he started,
Mhm.
but
I do think
he
we
does
coulda
these
got
parts pretty well.
someone else to play 18-year-old Kevin Von Erich, because Zac Efron has no business playing like a 20-year-old at this point in his career.
Yeah, I just it's just about Zac Efron. I just watched a movie that was on Netflix called Family Affair,
Where he's
where he's like the old
actor.
actor,
Mhm.
and I'm like, this is so, because I grew up him being a
Young guy, yeah.
a young character, so it's so weird to see people that you watched be the teenagers to now be the dads in the movies, and like he's the one I've really noticed it with.
It's the one
That
where
means you're
he's-
getting older too.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
it's the
like,
one where
it's-
he's with Nicole Kidman.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which-
that one's good.
Which another good movie that he is in with Nicole Kidman is Paperboy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's a rough watch,
Yeah.
but it is good. It's him,
good movie.
Nicole Kidman, and Matthew McConaughey.
I just can't imagine if you're Kev Von Erich how watching this movie would feel.
Well, I'm
It'd be
hoping.
hard, I would think.
yeah, to see
I
your
would think it's
brothers.
definitely hard, but I also hope that it gives him a perspective because, and this is where I said also the other guy comes into play. Who was it we were talking about? Dusty Rhodes.
Dusty
Oh,
Rhodes.
yeah.
Dustin Rhodes. Because the Von Erichs are in AEW right
Yeah.
now.
Mhm.
Marshall and Ross, which is
Kev's
Kevin's
sons.
kids.
Mhm.
And Kevin, I just saw a clip the other day. I think like over the weekend or end of last week, they have a trio tag on there, and it's the Von Erichs and Dustin Rhodes,
Mhm.
Dusty's oldest son,
Yeah.
and they just won the championships. And actually, Kevin was there. He was like their, I think
Mm-hmm.
he's like their manager.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now it's repeating. I'm hoping history isn't repeating itself
Well, I think
as bad.
he's
but
probably learned some.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I feel like he's a better father.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like he's.
Which he was portrayed as a pretty good person in the movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I think he comes off as a decent person. It's
Yeah.
just like everything is crumbling around him,
Right.
and he's just trying to do the right thing to like
Yeah.
To fix it. I mean, he has
put
a whole,
food on the table and make sure
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, he has a whole breakdown about like, and he is the one who sells the franchise eventually, and almost
Yeah.
like kind of pulls his family away for a little bit. A lot of the brothers actually had children before they died. So I guess he's involved in their lives too. I believe David His daughter is also wrestling.
Okay.
Like she's also an active wrestler right now. But it's I don't know. Like there was a lot of this movie that was really really hard to watch. I
Yes.
did love. I don't know. It was there were a couple really lovely like from a movie perspective. I can't like even begin to overstate the tension of Jeremy White on that motorcycle.
Yeah.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
just watching the lights come up the road at him, and it's just like from the moment he walks out the door that something bad is about to happen,
Yeah.
and it's like, on and off. Or the moment where the little brother's trying to play guitar after his like brain injury, and he
Yeah,
can't
it
do
was so
it, and
sad.
it's like it's just like whoever I don't know who the director was.
That one
And I
got me
think-
the worst.
Yeah, and I think
Sean
the casting
Yeah.
was great.
The
Like,
casting was great.
everybody did great, and even the mom who doesn't
Mhm.
talk much in
Yep.
this movie, she was able to show so much just in her face,
That moment
Yeah.
where she's like trying to hold it together, and it's like I
like
need a
going
new
to the
dress.
funeral and
Yeah.
things like that. Like it.
More Tierney's terrific.
I love the scene with her husband, and he comes in the house and asks what's for dinner,
Yeah.
and she's like, "I wasn't hungry,"
Right.
Didn't make it.
and she's painting, and you know,
Yeah.
she's gone through something, and,
Yeah.
Right.
you know,
Well, and he's got to just live with empty house now.
Uh,
Yeah.
I think the worst thing he does in the whole movie is when Kev gets there and he's looking at and he's there with his brother. He turns to I told you look out for him, and he goes,
Yeah.
he called you for help and you didn't help him, and it's like how to sum up his life. Like you could never you could never accept responsibility for your failures, and here it is again with you have one child left.
Right.
yeah,
And you have, you failed at the one thing you should have been trying to do in your life instead of chasing that like heavyweight belt.
Yeah.
yeah, and he's the dad was disappointed that he never made it in professional football, and he just wanted his kids to live his life.
Yeah, I mean, it's a common thing that happens, I think,
Yeah.
especially in sports
Oh yeah.
families.
Yes.
And the pressure to live up to what they wanted to be,
Mhm.
or for them to live vicariously through them.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
You also see it with like dance moms and things
Mhm.
like that.
Oh, yeah.
They push their child because they're trying to live through them, and you hear it a lot with child actors.
Mhm.
Yeah.
A lot of family trouble with that because they're pressuring them and they want to live through them, which I think is exactly what he was trying to do.
Yes.
Yeah. And Hope McCallany, who plays the dad, he's
Yeah.
I've always really liked him ever since like he was in some Fincher movies like Fight Club.
Mhm.
He has a small role, and then he was in Mindhunter, which is
Yeah.
one of my favorite shows.
I still haven't watched
I
it.
can't
need
believe you
to.
still
I
haven't
know,
watched
that's
it.
crazy.
Great show.
It's a great show, and I think like almost in that he's playing a similar kind of like strict discipline
Yeah.
dad. This is a little bit more. I mean, he's got more time in that kind of role, but he's just such a strong screen presence.
He also really looks like Fritz von Erich.
Yeah,
He
he
does,
does.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And going back to like Efron's physique, like it's about like everyone kind of like
Looks like they should.
I feel like in general, based on what I saw, like the Von Erichs were just taller
Mhm.
than a lot of these
Yeah.
the actors portraying them.
Except for the baby, Chris was 5'5". The one that's not in the movie. but
Okay.
He was little.
But like Efron is just way too ripped. Like none of these guys were that ripped.
Yeah.
Like he is like
He's
2% body fat.
questionable.
He's gonna go up on a bodybuilding stage. The whole
Right.
the whole.
I would say that there was probably some stuff that he took.
Oh, I know.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
I-
because even in like the Baywatch movie,
Mhm.
like he's ripped, but he's trim.
Yeah.
In this, he's you know.
He looks like He-Man.
I mean, nothing to say like he's really terrific in the film.
Mm-hmm.
It's just at some points like that physique is like
It's
That-
distracting.
yeah,
It
it's like
doesn't
that's,
look real.
that's too much.
And
Yeah.
let's just circle back to the thing that I've said many times. Zac Efron is a good actor.
He is a good actor.
He's very good.
I do
He
think
is. I think he gets, and I've said this a million
Yeah.
times. He gets overlooked because of how he started,
Mhm.
but
I do think
he
we
does
coulda
these
got
parts pretty well.
someone else to play 18-year-old Kevin Von Erich, because Zac Efron has no business playing like a 20-year-old at this point in his career.
Yeah, I just it's just about Zac Efron. I just watched a movie that was on Netflix called Family Affair,
Where he's
where
with
he's like the old
actor.
actor,
Mhm.
and and I'm like, this is so, because I grew up him being a
Young guy, yeah.
a young character, so it's so weird to see people that you watched be the teenagers to now be the dads in the movies, and like he's the one I've really noticed it with.
It's the one
That
where
means you're
he's-
getting older too.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
It's the
like,
one where
it's-
he's with Nicole Kidman.
Yeah.
Yeah,
which,
that one's good.
which another good movie that he is in with Nicole Kidman is Paperboy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's a rough watch, but it is good. It's
pretty
him,
good
Nicole Kidman, and Matthew McConaughey.
I just can't imagine if you're Kev Von Erich how watching this movie would feel.
Well, I'm
It'd be
hoping.
hard, I would think.
Yeah, to see
I
your
would
brothers.
think it's definitely hard, but I also hope that it gives him a perspective, because, and this is where I said also the other guy comes into play. Who was it we were talking about? Dusty Rhodes.
Dusty
Oh,
Rhodes.
yeah.
Dustin Rhodes. Because the Von Erichs are in AEW right
Yep.
now.
Mhm.
Marshall and Ross, which is
Kev's
Kevin's
sons.
kids.
Mhm.
And Kevin, I just saw a clip the other day, I think like over the weekend or end of last week, they have a trio tag on there, and it's the Von Erichs and Dustin Rhodes, Dusty's oldest son,
Yeah.
and they just won the championships. And actually, Kevin was there. He was like I think he's like their manager.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now it's repeating. I'm hoping history isn't repeating itself
Well, I think
as bad.
he's
but
probably learned some.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I feel like he's a better father.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like he's.
Which he was portrayed as a pretty good person in the movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I think he comes off as a decent person.
Yeah.
It's just like everything is crumbling around him,
Right.
and he's just trying to do the right thing to like
Yeah.
To fix it. I mean, he has
put
a whole,
food on the table and make sure
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, he has a whole breakdown about and he is the one who sells the franchise eventually, and almost
Yeah.
like kind of pulls his family away for a little bit. A lot of the brothers actually had children before they died. So I guess he's involved in their lives too. I believe David, his daughter is also wrestling.
Okay.
Like she's also an active wrestler right now. But I don't know. Like there was a lot of this movie that was really, really hard to watch. I
It is.
did love I don't know. It was there were a couple really lovely, like from a movie perspective, I can't like even begin to overstate overstate the tension of Jeremy White on that motorcycle.
Yeah.
Oh
You're
yeah.
just watching the lights come up the road at him, and it's just like from the moment he walks out the
Yeah.
door that something bad is about to happen,
Yeah.
and it's like, on and off. Or the moment where the little brother's trying to play guitar after his like brain injury, and
Yeah,
he
it
can't
was
do
so
it, and
sad.
it's like it's just like whoever I don't know who the director was.
That one
And I
got
think-
me the worst.
Yeah. And I think
Sean
the
Barker.
casting
Yeah.
was great.
The
Like,
casting was great.
everybody did great. And even the mom, who doesn't talk much in
Yep.
this movie, she was able to show so much just in her face.
That moment where
Um,
she's like trying to hold it together, and it's like I
Like
need a
going
new
to the
dress.
funeral and
Yeah.
things like that. Like it.
More Tierney's terrific.
I love the scene with her husband, and he comes in the house and asks what's for dinner,
Yeah.
and she's like, "I wasn't hungry,"
Right.
Didn't make it.
and she's painting, and
Yeah.
she's gone through something. And,
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and he's got to just live with empty house now.
Uh, I think the worst thing he does in the whole movie is when Kev gets there and he's looking at and he's there with his brother. He turns to I told you look out for him, and he goes,
Yeah.
he called you for help and you didn't help him, and it's like how to sum up his life. Like you could never you could never accept responsibility for your failures, and here it is again with you have one child left.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have, you failed at the one thing you should have been trying to do in your life instead of chasing that like heavyweight belt.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and he's the dad was, disappointed that he never made it in professional football, and he just wanted his kids to live his life.
Yeah, I mean, it's a common thing that happens, I think,
Yeah.
especially in sports
Oh yeah.
families.
yes.
And the pressure to live up to what they wanted to be,
Mm-hmm.
or for them to live vicariously through them.
Mm-hmm.
You also see it with like dance moms and things
Mhm.
like that.
Oh, yeah.
They push their child because they're trying to live through them, and you hear it a lot with child actors.
Mhm.
Yeah.
A lot of family trouble with that because they're pressuring them and they want to live through them, which I think is exactly what he was trying to do.
Yes.
Yeah. And Hope McCallany, who plays the dad, he's
Yeah.
I've always really liked him ever since, like, he was in some Fincher movies like Fight Club.
Mhm.
He has a small role, and then he was in Mindhunter, which is
Yeah.
one of my favorite shows.
I still haven't watched
I
it.
can't
need
believe you
to.
still haven't
I know,
watched
that's
it.
crazy.
Great show.
It's a great show, and I think, like, almost in that he's playing a similar kind of like strict discipline
Yeah.
dad. This is a little bit more. I mean, he's got more time in that kind of role, but he's just such a strong screen presence.
He also really looks like Fritz von Erich.
Yeah,
He
he
does,
does.
yeah. What
Like,
did you think of the guy playing Ric Flair?
I didn't
I
think it was
did-
believable.
No,
I didn't like it.
that
was my one
took
thing.
me out of the movie.
It did.
It
It
was-
did.
Because
He was
I
not
feel like you could have
believable.
found somebody who could do the voice and I mean, he
Mhm.
kind of had some of the physicality in general. Like, he kind of looked like him. I think is but as close as you can get. But like the voice,
There was just
It was
something
off.
about it that didn't feel real to
It
me.
didn't.
yeah, it felt like somebody trying to do a cosplay of
It just felt
Ric Flair.
so removed from the rest of the
Yeah.
the casting.
Yeah.
Everything
for
else
me.
feels really grounded. Ric Flair has so much like smarm to him
Yeah,
that it's like
it's really impossible to replicate.
it's very hard to get it right, I think. Because like we actually pulled up that similar Ric
match.
Flair interview. That was very similar to that one, and we're watching it. I was like, yeah, that's not quite.
He's much more manic in
on-
real life.
Yes.
I thought the
Yes.
portrayal of Harley Race was pretty good.
That was
Yeah,
Yeah. That's what I said. I think everything else, I didn't have an issue with anything.
yeah.
As far as portrayals of anybody else, it was just the Ric Flair one that really took me out.
Well, he's such a like iconic kind
Right.
of personality that
It would be the same if it was like somebody playing Hulk Hogan. Like, it's just
Yeah.
going to be weird.
wasn't The
Right.
Rock going to play Hulk Hogan in a movie?
Oh, I never heard of that.
I don't know.
That'd be-
Somebody was
I
going to
don't know
play.
how
They were
they'd
going to
do
make
that.
a Hulk Hogan movie at one point. I think it's maybe still on, but I don't know if that's really worth.
Nah,
I
it's
don't
fine.
know, that's
Mm.
worth
I could watch a Ric Flair movie though. That would be fun.
Yeah.
After watching that documentary.
So what did you guys think about the ending?
Oh.
I
The heaven
really,
thing?
Very, very, very
Did,
emotional.
did anyone catch
Yeah.
the Greek mythology reference in when Carrie
Puts
is
the
going to heaven?
coins.
He puts
Oh,
the
yeah.
coin on the seat of the boat, and it was like that was rough. Like watching all the
Yeah.
brothers like
I don't know what that means.
meet each other. So in Greek mythology, you buy passage into the underworld by giving a coin to Charon. So that's where the
Oh.
tradition of placing coins on people's eyes when they die to hold them closed comes from.
Cool.
I know that from playing the video game Hades.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look at you go.
Look at you.
I know some about wrestling from playing wrestling.
Well,
video
see,
games.
I mean, there was a lot about this movie that kind of felt magical and like, I don't know, in a way. It was really beautiful to watch, but the ending.
The ending was just very sweet, I thought.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just seeing them all the dead brothers reconnect with each other,
Yeah.
and even the little one was there.
Well, I like
Yeah.
the
I
little
mean-
moment he's got with his kids.
His sons.
His sons
Yeah,
at the end,
I really like
and
that.
where he's there, he's crying,
yeah.
and I think one of the kids says it's okay to cry, Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And oh,
And they said, "We'll be your brothers."
Well,
Oh,
at least
man.
that one was rough.
That to me was
Oh.
even more emotional
Yeah,
than
that-
the other
yeah.
scene.
Yeah.
The other scene, it does kind looking back, it kind of reminds me. Do you remember what's that movie where they're making a second one of it? It's Adam Sandler and he plays golf.
Happy
Gilmore.
Gilmore.
Happy Gilmore. When he looks in the sky
Oh,
and
God. And he sees Chubb. Was it Chubbs?
Chubbs and the
Yeah.
alligators reunited.
Yeah.
Reminded you of that?
A little bit.
What the hell, Aaron?
I don't know. I thought it was a really sweet
For
moment.
me, I think I just wasn't expecting it, and no, I don't know. It just seemed, I don't know. Just looking back, it reminds me. Of
I
that.
mean, if you're gonna have one, I also think that like Carrie was the. I mean, I know he was like the last one to die, but he was the Jeremy. I like him a lot. The bear is fantastic, and he's in it. He's the main character in it. He was the right one to play that kind of dreamily wandering off into like the land of death like role where he's like kind of has that like very boyish charm to him where he's like in that one moment. But he was also Carrie was the most famous of the Von Erichs. He was he was the one that actually wrestled WWE actually without a foot.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And like yeah.
I mean, that's again,
hardcore.
it goes back to the dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
I mean, it has been done since too.
Yeah.
Really?
There was that kid that didn't have a leg
Wow.
that would wrestle. That was more closer to like the 90s, 2000s, and it was more gimmicky.
Yeah.
So it wasn't as impressive, but like what he could do was impressive. That WWE just used him incorrectly.
Yes.
But he was also
They exploited him.
they exploited him. He was a wrestler before that, and I think still wrestles maybe or did for years after. But he had no leg. He would take his leg off.
There's a lot of misalignment between like so the Von Erich family narrative about how people died or how people were injured or things and the what other people in the wrestling community say happened. So in the when the Von Erichs talk about it, they're like, oh well, Carrie got his leg amputated right after the accident because it hurt too much.
But it was really 2 years later.
It was really 2 years later, and he was wrestling on it anyway, and that's why he got it taken off. And he got put back in too soon, or put himself back in too soon, and
Because of
ended
his
up
dad.
re-injuring himself because of his father. And same for David. They say like the some of the reports are that he died of sepsis essentially and like a colon rupture, but other people in the industry are like, yeah, he was a known like addict and his friend took all the drugs out of his room before like anyone got there to check on it and stuff. So like there's a lot of one way like,
It's not a close book.
yeah, it's not a close book on like what really happened to them.
I think anytime you're dealing with celebrities of any kind or people in any kind of industry, we never get the you don't get the whole
Plus,
story.
you were there. And,
Right.
Yeah.
We all liked both of the movies.
Mm-hmm.
Did we like one over the other?
For me, it's really hard to say. I think I like Iron Claw better, but I think I don't know. Because it's, I like the family story for me was so it made me pour tears for like basically after Mike died, I just cried for the rest of the movie. I was like, they should let that little boy just pursue his music career and left him alone.
I mean, it's really just a family drama, and wrestling is the backdrop. Like you could replace that with football or any other.
That's what I was saying. That's the difference between the two.
I personally like The Wrestler more. They're both great movies. They're both like 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10 for me. But I just like The Wrestler more, and I love Mickey.
I don't know that they're to me they're such different movies.
They are, yeah.
And
Different like every way, stylistically.
Right.
You know.
And I think they're both great movies, and they both had something to say. They both delivered on that. Acting in both was great. I mean, The Wrestler, I didn't rewatch Iron Claw because it was still pretty fresh in my mind. And The Wrestler probably really, like I said, it just grabbed my attention the way it was done. But I think that's because it also focused on like one person, and I really enjoyed that story. But I at the same time, the mental stuff, the mental health of the Von Erichs and the family dynamic, I always love that kind of stuff. So I think they're both amazing.
I think like both movies, like Iron Claw is almost like has this like God POV of this snapshot of this family, whereas
Right.
like wrestler is like it's on the
It's
ground,
internal.
Mhm.
Yeah.
like it's in the mud,
Yeah.
like it's dirty.
Right.
I think I just like that more. Like I feel like I was there with them in the
Right.
ring,
Yeah.
you know.
You definitely do.
That director does a really great job, though. Of like, I think every movie, just you feel like you're
Aronofsky?
them. Yeah, Aronofsky. Like you feel like you are. Black Swan does it. Like you're in it.
Well, it's
It's
art.
Mother's a
it's-
great one.
It's art.
Yeah, it's
Like, it felt like an
beautiful.
art film almost.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you? What about you, Todd? Did
I like The Wrestler, but I've seen Iron Claw twice now. The first time I saw it, I liked it, but I wasn't like super impressed by it. But the second
Right.
viewing, I liked it a lot more.
yeah.
And it's up there with The Wrestler
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if I absolutely had to pick one, I probably lean more towards the wrestler just because of the, like you said, it's the grittier
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
view.
Mhm.
But I don't know if I would pick. I mean, they're both great.
They're both great
At what they're doing.
Yeah, at
Yeah.
each different
They're
perspective.
just
on
so
the
different. It's
industry.
hard to compare.
I think for me, the fact that it kept me in tears for the last like half of the movie was like
Yeah.
for me, I was like, well, Iron Claw did something to my heart in a way
Right.
that I don't like. The Wrestler's really, really sad,
Yeah.
but it did not hit quite the same as Iron Claw did for me.
We also are changing up the format a little bit. Josh, you want to talk about that? Since you're producing?
So Tobey is going to be joining. She's going to be on every episode. I mean, she's always on every episode, but she is.
Featured.
I'm a host now.
She's a host now, as far as instead of producer. Whereas I'm taking on the producer, co-host role or whatever.
Yeah.
So we're going to change it up. So each episode, instead of 2 movies, we have a bucket here, and we've each put in 10 movies. So we're just going to randomly pick a movie for each episode, and we're going to talk about one movie per episode. They're still going to come out the 1st and the 15th of every month. So that hasn't changed. It'll just be more, I think, focused on one movie an episode.
Yeah. Which is
And
probably
it'll be
good.
a little bit more spontaneous because we might have 3 Aaron episodes in a row.
Right. Hey, yeah.
And then
that-
we won't have a podcast anymore because I won't be able to watch any more Zac Efron or Lindsay Lohan or whatever.
we haven't even done any Lohan
Please
yet.
don't. God.
You're safe
We will.
today because Aaron has not made his list
Yeah,
yet.
Aaron
it's
forgot,
me
so
and
we're
you.
just picking.
I thought we were pretending that we didn't.
I thought we were too, but then
Oh wow! Way to
throw you under
throw
the
the kayfabe
so I
off.
think we'll have. We're gonna pick the next movie now.
Yeah,
We'll have Todd.
I think
Todd
It's gonna be
pick.
fun
Okay.
Yeah,
because we never know who or what movie. Like
Yeah.
yeah. It's
even
just
the
totally
person,
random.
Even the person's movie that gets picked, they won't know which one until we announce it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fun. Let's do it.
All right, Todd.
Pick a movie, Todd.
Make it good.
Make it good.
I mean, I'm just picking.
I know you can't see them,
Got like
but
4 in there. There you go.
Okay.
and the winner is
If it's my handwriting, you need help, let me know.
Ricky O,
Oh, God.
The Story of Ricky.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to see that, so that's good.
I would like to say
right.
just by the name of the movie,
Wow.
it's
This is gonna be an experience for you.
That's gonna be an experience. I'm sorry.
Is
I
she
mean,
going to take over as like the bad movie person?
maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know what else she put in there.
Yeah.
This is the only B movie I put in. I
Okay.
think.
It's a pretty legendary B. Like
it's-
I wouldn't even call it a B movie. It's being kind.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a legendary
B
D
kind.
or E movie.
Oh.
It is.
It's
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
We'll just save it because it's
Okay.
something.
So that's what we're going to do next time
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do
And it's
Ricky
what?
O.
Billy O?
Ricky O.
Ricky
The
O.
story of Ricky.
What a
I
clever name.
think it's probably going to be one of these where the history behind the movie is going to be more
way more interesting than the movie
than
itself.
the movie itself.
Okay.
So
I like
So,
this
Todd.
director though.
yeah.
Sorry, you picked my one that they're both kind of gonna hate, but you're.
I mean,
welcome
I've
to
seen
come
it.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually want to see that movie. So.
Well, I've never even heard of it. So this will be interesting.
it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
about to me. This is just to give a little tease. It is not quite like oh no, there's one more really terrible B movie in there. Anyway, this one is kind of like it's kind of a slasher. It's Asian cinema. It's over the top.
Very
And if
over.
you've-
Like you like gore.
Yeah.
you are in store.
Yeah, we're not quite at Tokyo Gore Police levels of like over the top, but
It's very cartoonish.
it's up. Yeah, it's
Okay.
fun.
Very cartoonish.
It's a good time.
Well, that'll be interesting.
All right.
Sorry.
So I guess that's the end of this episode. Definitely join us next time as we talk about
Ricky O,
the story of Ricky.
There's that spontaneity from the bucket. It's already working like gangbusters.
But until next time, I'm Aaron.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Toby.
And this has been The Real Opposites.
Woo!
Woo!
That was a good one.